Welcome to The Fine Print, a podcast where experts at Succession Resource Group unpack the latest industry trends, recommendations, and observations for independent advisors managing their practice, with no fluff and hopefully a little entertainment. In each episode, we'll discuss ways in which you can understand and leverage the value of your business, grow your business through M&A, but also through an optimized organizational structure. Improve and protect your business to create a sustainable enterprise that can hopefully outlast you. And lastly, preparing for your eventual retirement and how to maximize that result. We're not just tackling high-level concepts, hence the title. We're getting into the details, or the fine print. So, we encourage you to listen in with whatever beverage suits your preference, and let's get to the forefront of industry trends with a fresh perspective to help you achieve your long-term business goals. Welcome back to another episode of SRG's The Fine Print. With me today is a good friend, Saša Mirkovic from Inspire Network, somebody who we've had the pleasure of doing work with, but also doing work for, shared clients. We've got a lot of things in common, which is fun to talk about today's subject, which I'll get into here in a moment, because in Saša's role, as he will share with you here momentarily, he does a quick introduction just to set the stage for those of you who don't know him, have not heard him before. We end up basically being two different sides of the same coin, where we at SRG are very tactical, technicians, contracts, taxes, which frankly, most of you listening know we try to make that as interesting as we possibly can, but it can be a little dry sometimes. Saša is much more tactical and practical. Having been in the advisor seat before, unlike most of the people on our team, but also coaching advisors and working with them face to face. It's just a very unique and interesting perspective for today's topic. So Saša, I'm going to hand the mic over to you, let you do a quick introduction on you, Inspire Network. You guys do cool stuff, but I'll let you share it.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. It's real pleasure to be here with you. And a quick introduction. An immigrant, have been here almost 30 years, started from scratch. I was lucky that nobody would hire me in 1998 except Ameriprise Financial or American Express Financial Advisors. Started in Baltimore, Maryland as a financial advisor, went up the ranks to be field VP in upstate New York. 2006, I turned 40 and I said, I want to be my own boss, and started a franchise that is now called Inspire Confidence Group. It's one of the top 0.5% of franchises of Ameriprise. And about 15 years ago, now a good friend and a partner of mine forced me to start coaching people because I would go in and give presentations about how I run a business and my philosophy, etc. And I became a coach as a franchise consultant with Ameriprise. I've been working with different teams in Ameriprise, outside of Ameriprise, in financial services industry, outside of financial services industry, because the reason why I do this, the reason why I get up in the morning and why should anyone care is I believe that God put me on this earth to facilitate change by developing leaders and building self-leading teams. And I started with my own team, made millions of dollars of dumb tax payments and mistakes and so forth. And my clients now are taking dumb tax deductions on the things that I paid the dumb tax for. And we're helping facilitate generational transitions. I'm 58. When I read Succession Planning for Financial Advisors, and when I read there that it said, to have a succession plan implemented, it takes about 20 years. I'm about 15 years into that 20. And I could easily say that I've done just about every single thing that we coach our clients about. David, you and your team have been a great partner in not just working with our coaching clients, but also helping me and my partners really create a multi-generational ownership structure where I work now as an advisor with a very, very small group of clients because that is the problem I love solving, which is business owners accelerating the value of their business and building self-leading teams and emancipating themselves from day-to-day operations and in the process increasing the value of their business, whether it's for sale or internal transitions and that sort of thing. So that's my passion. I hope that I'm going to have good health to do this for a long time. and I'm surrounded by a fantastic team of advisors and other team members and coaches. There's probably nothing that people can throw at us that we could not figure it out with or help.
Well, and it's funny because it's one of those things where, because you've heard me say this, and frankly, I think you've seen me present on it. We do a lot of presentations where we're talking about the importance of shifting from advisor to CEO. And it's not the most comfortable transition, and not everybody wants to make it or is ready to make it. I get it, but it's so impactful. I picked up on one thing I heard. Well, I heard you say a couple of things there, but the one thing I want to touch on that wasn't in our sort of agenda of things you and I wanted to unpack today, but we were talking about it the other day anyway, so I know you'll have a good answer for it. It is around the importance of making that shift from sitting in front of clients throughout the day to being able to be more of a multiplier. And that's the term I heard you use. I love that term. And it's so impactful when folks think about, well, you know, I like being an advisor. I'm good at it. I've been trained for it. I have licenses and designations and decades of experience sometimes, right? And how much training do we have to be the CEO and leaders? I mean, none, trial by fire. We figure it out as we go. But when I hear you use that term multiplier, I go back to that because when I think about the things that impact the valuation of a practice most, pick on an Inspire Confidence Group, for example, but it doesn't matter whether it's an Ameriprise franchise, Northwestern Mutual, LPL, independent RIA, couldn't care less. That part doesn't matter. The most important thing you can do that's going to drive the value of the enterprise is, as the founder and CEO, to aspire to stop seeing clients. Well, what does that really mean? Well, it's what you touched on. And it's being a multiplier. So for you, I mean, just having made that transition, and not in like the distant past, like it's recent enough, I think you could opine on it. How has that impacted your businesses generically to be able to be more of a multiplier versus a practitioner? Because I feel like that's pretty impactful.
I love talking about that. I'm a disciple of Dan Sullivan, and I firmly believe that four freedoms are very important parts: for freedom of time, money, relationship, and purpose. And as entrepreneurs, we kind of move through that. Starts with freedom of time, then freedom of money, then freedom of relationships, and then freedom of purpose. To me, it all started when I started my franchise, and one of my dear friends and neighbors became a client. And about a year into it, she said, "Sasha, everything's really good while you're around. What happens if you get hit by a blueberry truck?" And I was like, "Oh my." And it sort of hit me that people entrust their lives and their wealth for us to guard them and guard it and grow it, if you will. And I feel like I have a responsibility to ensure that this goes beyond me. And a lot of that is doing the things as an advisor and all the other stuff. And then over time, I don't know how many people that listen here are in their 50s. You start recognizing that things that took no time, like trades and other things, are now taking longer and longer and longer, and
Mhm.
you are less and less excited to do them, or at least people like I am. There's something, what's happening biologically. Young people have what they call fluid intelligence, and they can do a lot of quick things and so forth. But as we grow older, that intelligence falls off. And for financial advisors, it starts falling off in their early 40s. What doesn't fall off is what's called crystallized intelligence. Think of that as wisdom. And it actually increases over time. And as Arthur C. Brooks talks about in From Strength to Strength book, that the key in happiness and purpose and so forth is recognize that beyond being an advisor, there's a next stage in life where you can actually enjoy and have more freedom and ability to mentor and develop people. As you mentor and develop people, you become a multiplier of, say, yourself as an advisor. So in my kind of mind, I play this long game. And the long game is like all about developing advisors of the future that will have similar character and characteristics and beliefs that I have. And over time, I have ability to influence shifts in our company, in our industry, and the world as a whole. And as I get older and older, freedom of purpose becomes more and more important to me. So that's for me personally. What I discovered is when you work with the idea that these clients are not your clients, they're clients of the firm. And when they're clients of the firm, you have ability to extend this lifetime in perpetuity where you can help not only clients that are, say your generation, but their kids and generations of clients. And then it becomes like really exciting thing as a business owner to really see the impact that we're making on the world. Don't get me wrong, money is also good, so I can talk about that later too.
Yeah, fair. One of the other things I heard you mention, and it reminds me of every succession plan, more or less, that our team or that I used to work on. And that is, I think the term you used was self-leading teams. And when I think about the succession planning work we do here, obviously, fair amount of it, given that we are succession resource group. The term self-leading teams brings something back to mind that I hear come up a lot in the succession planning conversations I still have today and the work that I used to do that our team does now. And that is, as we're working with owners and founders to figure out their exit timeline, the deal structure, building out what we'd call a succession plan, at some point in that conversation, either early or the 11th hour, we would always get the feedback from folks that the next generation, they're great. I've trained them. We got good processes here. They can follow it. I know they can deliver on the client experience and take good care of our client base. I'm just not worried that they can lead the organization. I'm not sure that they can grow the organization when I'm gone. And to me, that ties back to what you had said, which is the self-leading teams. I heard you use that term, sort of emancipating the owner. Those are things you can only really do if you can create not just a practice, but a business that can exist without you. So going back to that term, I heard you use it 2 or 3 times. When you say self-leading teams, what does that mean to you? Does it mean the same thing that I would think of when I think about a self-leading team and organization?
So I think I shared this on my Instagram the other day, Simon Sinek quote that goes something like that. If we're good at everything, we have no need for anybody else in our life. And a lot of us founders, because of the success that we've achieved through rugged individualism and all the turbulations and trials and all these kind of things, we kind of often have this bigger than life personality and so forth. And that is a recipe for disaster. Like if you continue thinking that nobody's ever good enough for you, you probably should stop listening to this podcast and move on to something else. It is through terrible mistakes that I've made that I gained some humility. And in that humility became clear to me that I am just one person on the team. I have my own unique genius. And, maybe some other time we can talk about tug cards where we actually develop tool to measure talent and unique genius. Part of my freedom is I want to do only things that I'm good at and that gives me energy that are aligned with my values and in context of the attitude that I have. Self-leading teams are made out of people that have similar characteristics. They have character, they work hard, they have grit, they want to continuously improve and so forth, and they're compatible to each other. They make each other better. And believe it or not, there are a lot of people in their 20s and 30s that are compatible with people in their 40s and 50s. You just need to know where to look. And it becomes a lot more fun doing what we do. So self-leading teams, I would sort of, offer a visual. Think of yourself as a founder as a sort of a big nail that you put pencils around, and over time that becomes one cohesive unit, and you're sort of the bedrock of that team, and people around you are becoming part of you and you becoming part of them, and in the process you're grafting this something that is better than some of individual parts. And that's sort of how when I think about self-leading team, that's what I think about. When you have people that are in their own genius, they're empowered to express themselves under pressure, you don't need to manage anyone. You just lead. You have your genius and you rely on other people in their genius and character to do their part. And It's just magic.
So, where would somebody start? I mean, because obviously, I don't know why somebody wouldn't want to aspire to or to be actively trying to build self-leading teams, right? But where would one even start? If I'm an advisor, I've got a team, which I imagine is probably a lot of the people listening, given the stuff that we talk about here. But if I'm that advisor and I've got my team, again, I'm thinking, they're good people, they're good advisors, but they can't run a business without me. Like, is this just, is it a training and leadership related issue? Is this, I just need to hire the right people and then I'll have a self-leading team? Where does one start in earnest to be more actionable and prescriptive versus reactive?
I love it. So we can put the link to our tug cards section on our website and where people can learn more. I know that talent density is a force multiplier for your team. You need to know your talent density. What's the talent density? It is the quality of people that you have on your team. And it's usually where you have small group of people can handle extraordinary things really well and have fun doing it. It wasn't I almost said accidentally, but like I had a talent density event in my career where my former business partner and I split up, had different views of the future, and he went his way, I went my way, and 80% of the team went with him, and I retained about 20% of the team and 80% of the business, and we were able to handle 80% of the business with 20% of the team for about a year, which was like, oh my God, there's some amazing things that are happening right now. So that's where the idea of tug cards, talent, and you need genius cards came about. And I was like, I need to figure it out. How does that work? And we started recognizing that, self-leading teams are very much like elite teams like New Zealand All Blacks rugby team or Navy SEALs or a Liverpool football club or, Hamilton ensemble or there elite teams everywhere. And they all select, they don't hire. They look for missionaries and eliminate mercenaries. They have the right people in the right seats and they work like a team. And all you need is a team of two or three people plus you to kind of look inward and say, what is my genius? What is my team member's genius? How we collaborate together and start expanding around that. So I took an idea from Ray Dalio's baseball cards and combined several assessment tools to put into a digital tool that we call tug cards. And then we start kind of working from inside out organically. Who's a good fit for you? Who's a good fit for me? Like you and I were, working on some of the things yesterday, and I told you, you and I are very good compatible in this piece, but if we add this third person, it's
Right.
like gonna be game over. So it's sort of like understanding almost like um, it's almost like motion offense that Coach K talks about, um, like understanding who your players are, making reads, making adjustments. It's not sort of a prescription and you
Yeah.
get the pill and all of a sudden you have it. It's something that you work through over time.
But I'd love to hear you say that. And even the basketball analogy, for example, is one where I feel like for building self-leading teams, even just personally, but I think having talked to you over, however long we've talked about this stuff, it's without the tug card and your coaching as a tool, for example, that, advisors could tap into. I feel like the alternative is the secret sauce that I've always used to try to find and build self-leading teams. I'm going to give it to you guys on the podcast now. So grab a pen and paper. The secret formula to getting the right people and creating self-leading teams without a more systematic approach like Sasha's talking about is, if you're ready, write this down: hire, fire, hire, fire, hire, fire. Eventually, one or two of those people will stick. And you repeat that process. And at the end of a decade, you've got 4 or 5 winners that you couldn't live without. But it does take a decade and it sucks along the way. It's also kind of expensive. So
I love
what I'm
that.
hearing you say, Sasha, is there might be a little bit more systematic process that could be employed.
Yes. In 2018, we were a band of 6 people, and our total revenue was about 1.6, 1.7 million. Today, we're a team of 30 something people, and we're pacing to have 11 million in revenue this year as a firm. And we've grown from 180 million in assets to 1.1 billion. And yes, hire, fire, hire, fire, hire, fire, and a lot of prayer. But
Right.
if you kind of look for things, and this is part of what I'd like to think is my genius, kind of systems optimization, seeing things, figuring stuff out, and that's fun for me and for our teams too.
Yeah. Well, and I think the biggest measure of success, just knowing you and your team and on the coaching side, is that you now being the force multiplier that you are as an example, just to point to you since you and I are talking, you have the time and the ability to go spend time to be a multiplier, not just for your team, but for other teams on the coaching side. And that's just something that, again, until you can sort of build a team that can emancipate you from the day-to-day activities of sitting in front of clients and rebalancing and everything else that we deal with, as founders, you get to be chief cook and dishwasher. You just don't have the ability to go spend time to do these other things that clearly you're passionate about, but whatever our listeners happen to be passionate about. So it seems obvious, right? Like, well, then everybody would want to try to focus on building these self-leading teams. What are the challenges? What are the roadblocks? So why doesn't everybody just do this following the podcast?
Well, did I mention there's no magic formula or pill that you can take? It's something that you got to work systematically through. So it's a long game. It's not a, one and done kind of thing. You got to have sort of the idea that at some point in time you want to be there. And it really starts with who are the people, who's a man and a woman to your left and to your right? Do you trust them? Would you go to
Yeah.
battle with them? Would you be proud to invite him to Thanksgiving dinner? Here's the question that I often ask my coaching clients. Is your associate advisor that you're bringing into the client meetings someone that you would love to put a short video about and share it with your clients publicly? If the answer is yes, you have the right person, then go create that video and put it out and introduce your 20 or 30 years younger advisor to the clients as this is my second chair, this is my apprentice. Like, if you look at any legal shows, there's like a lead lawyer and then a second chair. It's
Yep.
basically the similar kind of thing. And you start with second chair and you gradually remove yourself from day-to-day interactions with that client and let that second chair handle things. And last thing I'm going to say tonight is like you need to have some humility. You need to recognize that when you're in a room, you suck the air out of a room. Clients would want to talk to you if you're in the room.
Yeah.
So I cannot stop talking. So the only way for me to allow my second chair and next generation rock stars to earn their wings and earn the trust of the clients is I step out of the room and I give them utmost confidence and trust, support them with the clients. And, I had a dinner with clients on Sunday in Chicago that I hadn't seen in a client visit in like 3.5 years. And they were working with one of my almost 30 uh, rock stars. And we were talking about how awesome he is. And I asked, like, is there anything that you can give him feedback? And they gave me like a one minor thing about the communication I shared with him. And I said, do you mind telling him that? And they were like, that's so awesome that you constantly get people to get better and better. I was like, that's how they're going to get better.
Yeah.
You can't just expect that somehow they're going to read your mind. No, it's like back and forth.
Yeah. It's about the communication to your point, which frankly, admittedly, I'm no good at. Luckily, my facial expressions generally communicate what I'm thinking anyway. So I can get away with it maybe with a little more than others, but it doesn't actually help communication to your point. So,
Okay.
but this is one you and I have talked about ad nauseum, frankly, in person, remotely, on consulting work. What are your thoughts on compensation related to self-leading teams? Because you and I both know industry-wide, there's definitely been a shift, it seems, but there are two camps. There's revenue, GDC-based compensation, where it's tied to a grid, whether you're an RIA or under an IBD, don't care. It's tied to production. And then there are those that have more of a team-based compensation model, is probably the best term for it, but base salary, bonus for performance. Thoughts on one versus the other?
So I think the term is eat what you kill is the
Yep.
first one.
Yeah.
That is a compensation model that will work very strongly against building self-leading teams. It is a very self-destructive and self-fulfilling fulfilling and team destructive model because
If it's more
the
of a branch model, right? You're trying to help those people build their individual books versus collaborating together as a group.
exactly.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. Yeah. So it's like me, and it does not really reward any kind of collaboration or
Yeah.
team unless. So to me, the eat what you kill equals mercenaries, and they're there just for the money. And if your business purpose is to make money, that might
Exactly.
work for you.
Yeah.
I believe that profit is not the purpose. Business should not be there for profit. It's like profit is like air. You don't live to breathe. You breathe to live. So your business has to be profitable in order to grow and outlive you. So
Yeah.
I don't want to give any impressions that I'm like against pro. No, we actually are very cognizant about profitability and so forth, and we need to have results and so forth. So the team-based compensation model is about supporting missionaries in their growth and development. I used to lead in the first environment in a branch management role and so forth, and I attracted people that are a bunch of mercenaries that just want to make money. The people that I thought would be awesome never wanted to get the job. Since we shifted to the second model, we attracted some really talented people that very much appreciate stability of the compensation based on the contribution to the team. And over time, they learn the variability of compensation and love the opportunity to build path towards ownership. You and your team have helped us there. So I'm a very big proponent of team-based compensation,
Yeah.
and it is, in my opinion, the only way you can structure compensation and build self-leading teams.
Well, I love that you mentioned though the you would you kill, the grid based, revenue based compensation. It isn't bad. It's just bad if you're
Yep.
trying to build a self leading team or teams
Cor-
in general. If you're
Yes.
building a branch office with a bunch of mercenaries who are going to go out there and kill it, and you're going to take an override, then knock yourself out. A base bonus structure is going to be incongruent with that model. But it is, to your point, I think it's right compensation, structure, and tool for the right teams. And knowing that those both are options and knowing where the right one sort of fits in, and frankly getting from point A to point B changing can be hard because it's not just changing the compensation, it's the people who want an EWU kill or grid-based compensation system aren't generally congruent with trying to then shift all of those same people over to be part of a self-leading team. You're going to need different people hypothetically. So last one I've got for you. If
Yes.
having done this yourself, again, this isn't just academic, if you could go back in time, give yourself one piece of advice, you get sort of a do-over here. Anything you'd tell your younger self?
Um, I would I would do this earlier.
Okay.
Um, and I'm going to say something now that might sound corny. Uh, Remember how in 2018 I was left with a very small group of people,
Yep.
and all of those people were telling me things that they saw that I refused to see. Starting with my wife, I would listen to my wife.
You just worry she's listening. And I know you mentioned the profit thing because your CFO might be listening.
Yes, and he was part of that group as well.
Yeah,
Um,
okay.
and Maria Natarelli, who was my first G2 partner, and um, you know other people on that group, Kayla Wells and Maureen Buckley, and folks that were with me at that time. But shoulda, woulda, coulda. I think I have a big ego, just like everybody else in this business. Sometimes you need to have exorbitant amount of pain to get that humility train going. So maybe I was due. So actually, let me rephrase my answer. Humility, I would find a way to be more humble and have more humility than I did before.
And I know you, like me, avid reader, avid podcast listener. Anything for those that want to maybe do a little bit of homework on this topic of self-leading teams, where they could start? Anything you've enjoyed reading over the years, or podcasts you actively make a point to go listen to, besides obviously the fine print?
Well, hopefully next time we do something like this, my book will be out. So I'm in the
Hell yeah.
final stages of writing it. The books that inspired me, I'll just give three. One, Extreme Ownership by Jocko Willink, Leaders Eat Last by Simon Sinek, and Principles by Ray Dalio. And well, I cannot not mention Good People by Tajan Tan. All of these books and ideas in those books have made a profound impact on my leadership, and I consider authors of those books my mentors, even though most of them don't know who I am.
Love it. That'll add to some people's summer reading lists.
Yes.
All right, let's wrap this up and get you out of here. If folks wanted to track you down, track somebody down from Inspire Network, get resources, have conversations, what's the easiest, best way to reach you all?
InspireNetworkLLC.com is our website. I have a weekly newsletter called The Nudge. If you're interested, you can just send me an email at team@wefacilitatechange.com. We'll provide all the resources for the links in a podcast.
Love it. I know you've got an abundance mentality. You're always good about sharing content and resources. So I appreciate
Absolutely.
you carving out time, giving us a little bit of the secret sauce, a little bit of a preview on the book coming out here soon, which I look forward to hearing more about and obviously reading. And then maybe topic for another day, the tug cards and the more systematic way to try to build these self-leading teams. With that, folks, really enjoyed having you on, Saša. It's always fun talking to you, picking your brain. Nice that obviously all of you listening, Saša is professional and does this for a living. So if you need his help, you know where to reach him. Short of that, we're going to wrap this session up again, back to where I started, and that is self-leading teams, creating a business that can someday exist without you is kind of the core fundamental part of doing succession planning. We'll take care of all the hard technical stuff, the timing, the financing, the taxes, the structure, but we can only play with the pieces that are on the board. So a lot of that work starts well before you show up on our doorstep. So again, appreciate you, Saša. I'll let you get back to it. I know it's getting late there. Everyone listening, I appreciate you taking time to carve out and listen to today's session. Again, the books that Saša mentioned, the website will all be linked in the description. So with that, be well. We'll talk again soon.
Thank you.
And that concludes another episode of The Fine Print from SRG. We hope you found this episode both interesting and valuable. We encourage you to check out our website at www.successionresource.com. And of course, connect with us on social media for the latest happenings here at SRG. If you just can't get enough of The Fine Print, we invite you to join our monthly webinar series and newsletters where we address many of the topics covered in this podcast in greater detail. Finally, if you enjoyed today's episode as much as we did recording it, please leave us a review, a good one, mind you, and tell your industry friends about us. Your support helps us continue to bring you the best content possible. The information covered and posted represents the views and opinions of the guests or individual hosts and not necessarily the views or opinions of Succession Resource Group. Content has been made available for informational and educational purposes only. The content is not intended to be a substitute for professional advice, as amazing it might be. Always seek the advice of an expert with any questions you may have. As always, we at SRG stand ready to help when you're ready.